Hey everyone, Israel is currently in a war against the terror organization Hamas, and we know how hard it can be to keep up with all the news. So if you haven't had the time to stay on top of the latest developments out of Israel, we're here for you. I'm Ladarga Velazi, and this is ILTV's Weekly Review. And Israeli counterterrorism forces prevented an October 7th inspired terror attack, targeting and eliminating a cell hiding and planning an imminent attack from the Ibn Sina hospital in Jenin. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
A combined counter-terror operation located and eliminated a Hamas cell within minutes, according to a joint statement by the IDF, Israeli Police Yamam Counterterrorism Forces, and the Shin Bet. Hamas terrorist Mohammed Jalamna was killed during the operation, along with two fellow terrorists who hid with him at a hospital. CCTV shows the forces dressed as doctors, nurses, and Palestinian women heading to a hiding room on the third floor of the Palestinian hospital, where they shot and killed the surprise terrorists with guns equipped with silencers before escaping the building unscathed. Jalamne, aged 27, was allegedly in contact with Hamas headquarters abroad and armed other operatives ahead of a planned murder spree. The two others killed alongside Jalamne are known to have been involved in previous shooting attacks. Security officials said that many wanted Palestinians hide in the Jenin hospital to plan terror attacks, hoping the medical center will provide protection from Israeli counter-terror operations. Officials said the three were planning what was described as an October 7th inspired attack. And with an arsenal of 150,000 rockets and mortars, Hezbollah is a major threat to the northern border. After a month of daily rocket fire, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant is warning that war is on the horizon, and Haifa residents would be the target of a potential Hezbollah strike. ILTV's William Sharon reports.
Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has raised concerns that a war with Hezbollah might be on the horizon, with Haifa at the forefront of the strikes. Gallant emphasized the need for comprehensive preparations in Haifa, citing the looming threat of extensive rocket attacks from Hezbollah. Hezbollah is reportedly possessing an arsenal of over 150,000 rockets and mortars and could unleash up to 8,000 rockets daily. Their weaponry boosts precision, long-range capabilities, and heightened destructiveness, posing a severe risk to Israel. Despite the confidence in military victory, Israeli defense officials acknowledge the vulnerability of the home front during the initial stages of the war. The potential damage to Haifa is deemed significant, even with the Iron Dome's 80 to 90% shoot-down rate. Officials anticipate that Hezbollah's sustained rocket fire will cause prolonged harm to the civilian population. Defense Minister Gallant, addressing the situation in the greater Haifa area, asserts the patience is wearing thin and forceful action may be necessary to ensure peace along the northern border. Gallant's remarks come amidst daily attacks from Hezbollah in Lebanon, including rocket, missile, and drone assaults on northern Israel. Aside from military preparedness, we are actively engaged in political diplomatic efforts, and clear instructions have been given to the Home Front Command for civilian readiness. Gallant affirms he concludes with a stark contrast, stating that if the situation deteriorates, the situation in Haifa will not be good, but in Beirut, the situation will be devastating.
Day 116 of the war in Gaza and Khan Yunis is now nearly under IDF control. The army said more than 2,000 Hamas operatives have been killed in the city since troops began operating in the south of Gaza last month, as the army pressed forward around and under the giant Hamas stronghold. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
The city of Khan Yunis is fully surrounded by IDF forces. Much of the fighting is in underground tunnels where Hamas leadership is believed to be hiding. Many Hamas commanders were killed, fled, or surrendered to IDF troops, handing over valuable intelligence information about the terrorist group. Soldiers have also arrested many Hamas gunmen who took part in the October 7th onslaught.
אנחנו ממשיכים במתקפה במרחב ח'אן יונס. יש לנו עוד משימות מבצעיות לפירוק המסגרות הצבאיות של יתר הגדודים של החמאס. כל ח'אן יונס חיסלנו למעלה מ-2,000 מחבלים מעל ומתחת לקרקע. בנוסף, השמדנו תשתיות תת-קרקעיות משמעותיות, בהן מצאנו מתקנים להחזקת חטופים, מפקדות, אמצעי לחימה, תשתיות ייצור וחומרי מודיעין.
Despite the serious degrading of Hamas, its ability to fire a limited number of rockets into Israel continues. A barrage of rockets were fired at Tel Aviv and nearby cities. This was the first time in a month that rockets landed inside central Israel, causing damage to cars and property, but no injuries. Meanwhile, the UNRWA scandal continues to grow. An Israeli intel report shows 10% of UNRWA workers in Gaza have ties to terror groups. The Wall Street Journal reports that the document alleges that about 1,200 Gaza employees of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees have connections either to Hamas or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. More than 15 countries in the past week decided to suspend funding to UNRWA after details were revealed on its workers' involvement in the October 7th massacre. ILTV's Emily Schrader with the latest from freezing New York City.
Yes, hi from a very cold New York City. We are here outside the United Nations in the aftermath of more than 15 countries suspending funding to the UN Agency for Palestinians, UNRWA. Now, this organization has come under significant controversy in recent weeks due to the revelation that the organization has more than 1,200 Hamas or Islamic Jihad terrorists who are active members of these terrorist organizations that are employees of UNRWA. In addition to that, as some of the Israeli hostages who have been released back into Israel have testified, they were actually held in the homes of UNRWA teachers in at least 2 instances. More information in recent days has revealed that there are also Hamas commanders who in their day jobs are UNRWA teachers who took part in the October 7th massacres, including in Kibbutz Be'eri specifically. And for an ongoing time, the UNRWA organization has had significant associations with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Their facilities have been used to fire rockets. They have actually stored rockets not once, not twice, but 3 times they have been caught with storing rockets inside of their schools, Hamas rockets. And of course, in addition to that, there have been multiple reports from multiple organizations, independent analysis and reports that they have been teaching anti-Semitism, glorification of violence, incitement to violence to Palestinian youth. So this organization is under significant controversy, not only to have a suspension in funding, but in fact to disband the organization altogether. Now, in response to the cut in funding, approximately 75% of their budget is now being cut off based on the countries who have agreed to cease funding. But the UNRWA organization, despite the fact that ILTV has reached out to them for comment, has not formally responded to our requests or our inquiries. However, they have stated that should this go through, they will not be able to continue their activities on the ground in the Gaza Strip. Now, given the information that has recently been revealed, we're not exactly sure what their activities are in the Gaza Strip. However, that is the situation as it stands today. Emily Schrader from here in New York City.
With the European Commission and Romania now also joining the list of countries suspending funds to UNRWA and the latest concerning reports by the New York Times, we're now joined in studio by entrepreneur, investor, and member of the World Jewish Congress, Terry Newman. Terry, great having you here today. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So really, I want to start with the New York Times report. New details have been revealed today, joining the latest revelations from the last couple of days of what its workers have done during October 7 massacre. What's the latest we know?
Well, I mean, let's start with just realizing how concerning this is. You know, members of UNRWA were involved in the massacre of the 7th of October. But we're also seeing as well, they weren't just involved in the massacre itself, they were involved in actually holding the hostages, in moving the hostages from an UNRWA building to another UNRWA building. We've even got stories from hostages who have been freed saying they were fed UNRWA food in UNRWA buildings. So this is not a UN organization. UNRWA, despite its name, is a Palestinian organization run by Palestinians for the purposes of promoting the Palestinian cause. And, you know, I think if you realize that the entire world has one refugee agency, other than one specific group of people, and I'm sure you can guess who they are, the Palestinian people, this has to stop. I mean, you know, the only organization that deals with refugees that has more refugees today than it had when it was set up
UNRWA.
is UNRWA. the only organization in the world that can create refugees, and I'll say that word again, create refugees, and pass it from generation to generation is?
UNRWA. That's the answer.
And so therefore, you know, as the United Nations, as other, you mentioned Romania just before, but if you look at the countries that have said, hang on a second, what's going on here, we can see that these are the countries who democracy, who freedom and other important values of the Western world are central to their outlook.
But I want to ask you, Terry, Israel has been calling to defund UNRWA for years by now. No one's listening, and now the countries are waking up. Is it because they really didn't know, or did they know but they can't ignore it anymore?
That's an excellent question, and I think the answer to that is as follows. Listen, there is a requirement for Palestinian people as part of developing countries to get aid, to get development aid. There are many other countries in the world where the UN provides development aid, where other countries, wealthier countries, provide development aid. So Gaza and the West Bank are examples of where that should be done, but they should be done as humanitarian organizations that give humanitarian aid rather than refugee-creating mechanisms. And if I may say, you know, this is part of the debasing of the international organizations that were set up after World War II to protect human rights, to protect refugees. I can give you two other examples. I spoke a couple of years ago in the UN Council for Human Rights. When Iran and North Korea are members of it, how can that be how can that be a serious organization for human rights? It's the debasing of the organization. Another example from last week, you know, the International Court of Justice. South Africa, a country that had just hosted the Sudanese warlord, Emedeti, who had carried out a real genocide. I've been to Darfur, right? He carried out a real genocide, was welcomed there with a red carpet, and they are taking Israel to court over genocide.
You can't compare it. And you know, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, not necessarily a friend of Israel during this war, right? He's calling to maintain the aid because Gazan civilians need this aid. How do you see a way to continue with UNRWA, or maybe not, to help those Palestinians, but not the way it's happening right now?
So I think UNRWA needs to be scrapped. I think a humanitarian development organization should be set up. Those funds should be run by Western countries, by Abraham countries, those who've signed on the Abraham Accords, and that money should go to the Palestinian people. The current situation where, in effect, we are saying to Hamas, you take all your funds and you use it to build terror tunnels and attack Israel, whilst we use our funds in order to look after your population, has to end. It's bad for the Palestinians, it's bad for Israel, and it's bad for the world.
Definitely, and I think we should be happy the world is waking up right now. Thank you so much, Tara, for joining us today, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple.
In other news, Saturday marked International Holocaust Memorial Day. This is a solemn occasion every year, but this year the day carried even more significance following the October 7th rampage and the global rise of anti-Semitism once again.
A straight line connects Nazi ideology to genocidal jihadism. Both drove from the darkness of the Middle Ages. Both terrorized by despicable brutality. Both use anti-Semitism and xenophobia to destroy the free world. Both lie as they breathe.
Israel's ambassador to Poland drew a direct link between the Nazi ideology and the Hamas ideology, speaking at the official ceremony marking 79 years since the liberation of the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp on International Holocaust Memorial Day.
Today, the generation of our children fights jihadi barbarism. On Simchat Torah holiday, the 7th of October, we saw what one day of the Holocaust might look like.
The ambassador said that now the world must not only remember, but must also act as the only Jewish state fights for its very existence. Meanwhile, the United Nations also held a ceremony on Friday honoring the victims and survivors. Israeli ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, criticized the World Organization, saying it had failed to learn the lessons of the Holocaust.
Hitler seared the meaning of genocide into our DNA. But on October 7th, Hamas tore open that wound. On International Holocaust Remembrance Day, the day that even the ICJ proved to the world that the lessons of the Holocaust were not learned, I stand here in the name of the State of Israel, in the name of all those murdered by the Nazis and Hamas, and I swear we will not forget. Never again is now.
And now, while Israel has faced an influx of criticism since the start of the war, it is important not to forget the outpouring of support from all over the world, specifically from the evangelical community. And in this incredible show of solidarity, evangelical Christian humanitarian aid organization Samaritan's Purse has replaced 21 fully equipped ambulances that had been destroyed since the start of the war. And ILTV's Ariel Alachiani attended the unveiling. Take a look.
In an incredible show of solidarity, Samaritan's Purse donated $4 million to Magen David Adom to replace 14 fully equipped ambulances destroyed since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. In addition to the 14 ambulances, the organization is donating 7 armored ambulances to MDA, which are still in production and will be ready for use this spring.
Franklin Graham and Samaritan Purse initiative to donate 21 ambulances to Magen David Adom is now materializing, and it is simply a life-saving gift to the people of Israel. 14 of them are now here, and they will go out and be stationed throughout the country, hopefully be able to provide the necessary medical treatment to people in need, and the additional 7 who will be bulletproof will arrive in a few months to Israel and reinforce the fleet of life-saving vehicles of Magen David Adom. So we are so grateful for this partnership and for them. They are simply standing shoulder to shoulder with us and supporting us and the people of Israel.
The event was attended by many esteemed figures, including the Mayor of Jerusalem and renowned evangelical Christian leader Reverend Franklin Graham, son of the late Billy Graham.
When I heard that there are 14 ambulances that are destroyed, I just immediately said, we're going to replace every one of them. And then when I came and I saw they had some armored ambulances, but they were old. I'm not sure they could even get to a crisis. I said, let's replace those too.
We're thrilled to be here with Samaritan's Purse. They have done an extraordinary thing with this gift of 21 ambulances, 14 of which are here today and being dedicated. And they are in honor of the 14 of the MADA paramedics and EMTs who lost their lives during this horrendous war. And it means so much to us that we have the American Christian community behind us as we're all working to try to save lives in Israel each and every day.
Each ambulance is dedicated to the memory of one of the MDA paramedics who was killed in action, including 4 who were murdered on October 7th, tending to the wounded.
We'll take something that was there, it's their name tag, their badge, off their uniform, and put it on the inside of the ambulance, and it will stay there. So that not only will their name be on the ambulance, but something that was personal to them will be in the ambulance as it goes.
We are grateful, extremely grateful for the Christian world that supports Israel and is strong for Israel. We're grateful for Samaritan's Purse that has donated these ambulances and done it in the names of some of our fallen who have died on October 7th and days later. We want to thank the American the Canadian, the Christian communities around the world for supporting Israel, doing advocacy, staying strong with us, and we wish that you will continue and be steadfast in your support for us.
The families of each fallen MDA paramedic were present for the unveiling of the ambulances, including Yael Newman, wife of the late Eitan Newman, who was killed at the start of the war. Eitan was a dedicated paramedic who was passionate about saving lives, specifically the importance of CPR.
כשאני רואה את האמבולנסים האלה, ואני יודעת שהם בסוף למטרה של הצלת חיים, זה מרגש ומשמח, זה ממשיך את הדרך של איתן, ואני מרגישה שהוא איתנו, ואני מרגישה שהוא נמצא איתנו כאן, וזה מרגש לראות נוצרים שמאמינים בעם היהודי ובצורך שלנו לחיות כאן ולהמשיך את החיים כאן בארץ.
Respect the elderly. We journey now to the heart of Binyamin, where the unlikeliest alliance between Christian cowboys from Montana and ultra-Orthodox girls is rewriting the script of coexistence in the midst of wartime challenges, while saving Ruthie's horse farm. ILTV's Amit Harari has the story.
Remember the Cowboys? Well, this is an incredible story about how they helped Ruthie's farm. In the heart of Binyamin, near the settlement of Alon, a remarkable story is unfolding at Ruthie's horse farm that defies imagination. Evangelical cowboys from Montana in the USA have joined forces with ultra-Orthodox girls, forming an extraordinary alliance to expand the farm, all amid the backdrop of wartime. Ruthie Mann, the farmer's owner, describes the coexistence as a blend of normality and impossibility. On one hand, it is the routine of the shared Shabbat meals and storytelling by the fire, and on the other hand, it's a situation that seems implausible but is happening right before our eyes. Ruthie's farm has been operating for a decade now, diversifying its services to include caring for children with emotional challenges, boys expelled from educational institutions, and recently, ultra-Orthodox girls facing severe crisis. The unexpected turn of events occurred when a group of American evangelicals aged 20 to 25 arrived in Israel. These individuals, passionate about Israel, stumbled upon Ruthie's farm. The Montana Cowboys have become an integral part of the farm, contributing to the establishment of riding areas and lodgings for the horses. And right before they bid farewell, Ruthie emphasizes that the farm transcends its agricultural role. This farm is much more than just a farm and provides for those who have nowhere to go. What the group from Montana did was actually to save the farm. They came to us like angels, and the connection with the girls here was seemingly illogical, but also very special.
For more of the latest updates from Israel, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at iltv.tv or download the ILTV Plus app. That's it for ILTV's weekly review. Stay safe and see you next week.